So for the past few months now, people are commenting on this video I made nearly a year ago, which was America is starting to look like a third world country. So I was homeless in downtown Boston at that time making that video. And for a video to be that old and getting noticed by people with a couple commenting here and there, that sends out a message. So I want to catch on with this. So yeah, since that video was made, I was starting to see that America was resembling a third world country, and that was a year ago. And that year was a really strange year, too. Like, it just seemed like a colorless year with a negative vibe like communism. It just seems like it wasn't that long ago because of the situation I'm in now. Like, when I look back at what life was like in 2019, when I was living the American dream, working hard, stacking money, learning and growing, and then I eventually got my first apartment in San Diego, California because of all the hard work and years of learning and experience I've had at different jobs and all that stuff. And to see that in 2021, after Biden became president and his new economics, it was all gone. And now I have to go back to the bottom and start over. And for about 3 years now, I've been in this situation. Like, I went from having three apartments of my own to living in my car in Boston. And as I was doing deliveries and stacking up money, trying to look for a bartending job, which is what I came there for in the first place, I saw this picture of a guy homeless under a bridge that did a drawing of a bed, a shelf, a nightstand, a bookshelf, and all that stuff to make it look like a bedroom. And it was sending out a message of like the homelessness being out of control in Los Angeles. And I saw that and it gave me the reaction to make that video. And I remember as I was walking on the streets just thinking of like, I work all day, I work nights, I grind. I'm doing something useful to the world and the country. I'm making all this money, I'm doing this and that, but yet I don't have a home. Like, I'll sleep in my car and I'll wake up and be like, why am I living this way? Like, sleeping in my car in a parking garage, working all day, barely making anything, and then at the end of the night, I don't have a place to live. And it's like, I don't have a home. And when people find out or you say that you don't have a home and you're living in that situation, the people in this country will laugh at you. And inflation is now so high on the rise, no one can afford to live on minimum wage, let alone $18 an hour at like 84 hours a week. It's not a livable wage. Like, everywhere you go, the rent is now more than I was paying in San Diego, California in 2019, which was $1,640. And there's other theories that I made of this video where I think about how the world is overpopulated. It's a very controversial topic every time I talk about it. But the reason I made those videos saying that I thought it was overpopulated, notice I said I think it's overpopulated. I don't say that it is. The reason I thought that is because everywhere you go, it's crowded. Everywhere you go, when you look for a home, you got like 50 to 100 people looking at that same place. When you look for a job, you and 100 other people are standing in line for one job, like it was 100 years ago. But the thing is, everywhere you go, you just see 50 people doing the same thing. It's like it's oversaturated, especially for homes. It felt like homes, like homeless people, was oversaturating the home market, like as if there was more homeless people than the homes available. And that's where I had that quote on that video saying, how is it that we have no affordable living anywhere? And they increase our cost of living, they increase our taxes, they tax this and that, but your wages stay stagnant and they're limiting the opportunities. It just seems like there's no color whatsoever. And the people in this country are like brainwashed sheeple that are really toxic. And they mock and they laugh at you. They don't say like anything intelligent at all. Like, they act like 13-year-olds and they're sheep. And that to me is just like, compared to 5 years ago in San Diego, living the dream, and eventually working my way up to Miami, having a place to live and looking for a career and looking forward to starting a business. boom, it's all gone. And now there's very limited opportunities, very limited skills to learn, very limited wages to where you can live, very limited freedoms with all these new rules, higher taxes to everything. They are now taxing people to drive on the roads of New York City because they want you to use the subways because of congestion. But really, they are taxing us to drive on the roads of New York City and probably soon other cities near you, to drive on these roads. But yet New York City ain't got no fucking money whatsoever. There's always delays on subways. There's delays on transportation. There's delays to where you make one stop when you're trying to get to Brooklyn. Now you gotta cross your way through here and there, through here and there, miss your trains, and end up on the other side of Brooklyn to where you need to be and not figure out how to get back. All because they have all these delays and departure nonsense. Like, there's no one subway back like it was getting there because of all these delays and maintenance they did on the subways. I mean, like, really? How is it that a city like that doesn't have money for anything? And they tax all this nonsense, but yet the city is still broke like a joke. That's how it is in California. Like, California is known to be the 5th largest economy in the world. Tourists from around the world go there. People from around the world try to live there. It's got the best weather and all the landscapes. The 5th largest economy in the world, and being known for the American dream, has no money whatsoever. Like, in 2011, they closed down schools, after-school programs. They closed down libraries. They added all these new taxes and rules and regulations and doubling the police. Like, really, how is it that a state like that has no money for anything? And you look at it today, and the streets of San Francisco and Los Angeles and now San Diego has a terrible homeless situation everywhere you go. It looks like Skid Row just expanded the entire state of California and is now slowly spreading all across the country. Here in Cincinnati, I lived here for a resoundingly 12 years before I started traveling all across the country. I noticed the governance of California, its high cost of living, taxes, democratic rules, and unconstitutional nonsense is being brought here slowly. Like, I see parking tickets everywhere when I've never seen them in the past 10 years. I'm seeing cars getting towed that have been parked in the same spots for years. I've been seeing double the cops. I've been seeing more and more stupid rules, higher taxes. We have all these nonsense BLM protesting and looting, and it's over after Election Day. All these riots from Democrats with stupid shit. And I'm noticing the same governance and scenery of California with homeless people camping everywhere is being brought here. And California alone is starting to look like a third world country. And Cincinnati is slowly catching up. Like, I've made videos of this before too, where I say how Cincinnati is a dying city. It went viral and people were telling me how I'm wrong. And they laugh at me and say, whatever, buddy. Just like a bunch of sheep. And that to me is like, well, who knows the city more? A person who's lived here for 10 years and plays guitar on the streets, mostly on Friday and Saturday nights? Or strangers on the internet with TikTok brain that can't hold an attention and for more than 90 seconds and forget what you're even saying within 3 minutes? Like, really? Like, how is it that all the people in this country are not seeing what's going on around them? Like, America is crumbling apart with all these taxes when we were known to be a tax-free nation after the Boston Tea Party. Like, how is it that the people in this country are not realizing what's going on around them? Like, I shouldn't be homeless. I shouldn't live in poverty. I shouldn't live in my car. I shouldn't eat shitty food. I shouldn't have to pay extra for everything. I shouldn't have inflation. I shouldn't see high cost of living and unaffordable housing. I shouldn't see double the cops pulling people over left and right. I shouldn't see a terrible homeless situation of people injecting fentanyl on the streets. I shouldn't see people overdosing on drugs on the streets of my city. I shouldn't see graffiti. I should not see mediocrity and no colors. I should not see one of everything. I should not be around sheeple that can't think. I should not live this way. When you say that and stand up for yourself, people will mock at you. They make fun of you. They say really stupid things, like a 15-year-old from high school just now learning to how to type a computer and a phone. Work, 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 and make that money, right? You're working 84 hours a week, and you come home and barely afford rent. You can barely afford your house if you're lucky enough to have one. Yeah, yeah. You see, like, that doesn't resemble America at all. And I look back at what it was like in 2019. It just blows my mind of how we went from that to this in such a short amount of time. Like, America is starting to look like a third world country. There was one part I forgot to add in the video, and I really wanted to include it, which was, as I mentioned on my last video, I noticed that anyone who thought outside the box or did the California lifestyle of growing up in California in my childhood, they did that, oh, you have ADHD nonsense and need medication and blood tests and samples and single you out. Like, they're trying to get exams out of you. And I noticed California was the only state that was like that. Like, it was an event that I didn't even want to retell because there's just no way it seems so real. It's kind of like people who were molested in their childhoods, you know? It will take you at least 15 years to start wanting to open up and talk about it, you know? It's kind of the same thing. Like, you just try to pretend that shit wasn't real. And I think it's happening to a lot of people because I noticed a lot of these people in this country can't remember what happened like 5 years ago. They don't even remember what life was like back in high school, but they remember the 90s and 2000s, but they don't remember specific events like during childhoods or after this and that. And looking at 2020 with the world becoming a disaster and a pretty frightening time, then I look back in our childhoods when anyone who thought outside the box was singled out, going as far as to medicating them, getting more discipline, more punishments, just like the Rockefeller system. That to me is like, no way this was an accident. They did this to make America a third world country. Like, John Rockefeller was a communist who planted the commie seed in this country, and now that seed is blooming into a tree. Like, he was the real communist of this whole entire history. He helped the Federal Reserve take over America, which we tried fighting for centuries. And after World War II, when they medicated the Jews and tested them for lab experiments, I noticed that's becoming a reality in California. It just feels like some World War II Nazi Germany, like Holocaust shit. That's just why I'm saying, like, I want to include that in this video. Like, there's no way it was an accident. They did everything they could to make sure that you don't think or see what's going on around you. And it's not even constitutional. Like, it's so sad and heartbreaking.
Our parents came to this country, escaping persecution, poverty, and hunger. Hunger, Harold. They were very, very hungry. And they wanted to live in a land that treated them as equals. A land filled with hamburger stands. And not just one type of hamburger, okay? Hundreds of types with different sizes, toppings, and condiments. That land was America. America, Harold. America. Now, this is about achieving what our parents set out for. This is about the pursuit of happiness. This night is about the American dream.
Like, you look at third world countries, crumbled infrastructure, disgusting living conditions, terrible homeless situation. People cannot afford food. People are not able to buy food or water or basic essentials. Being stranded at 110 degrees humidity because there's no gas and you have to drive to the nearest gas station miles away with a line about a mile long of cars. Seeing the hopelessness and the misery of communism. And the fact that there are Americans here that will have that governance brought here. Seeing and looking back at what America was like during my teenage years when I lived in Maine, riding my bike in the woods down the hill towards the Androscoggin to the town, at the convenience store having 30 things to choose from with all the colors and cool brands and funny commercials and all these cool cars and bikes, hanging out with our friends after school, having a good time, and looking back at what the history was like with our forefathers that created this country, and it being the American dream and the best country in the world, and all these foreigners I write to telling me that people would die to go to this country. But then I see the harsh reality of what America is like today, and that to me is like, I don't get it. I don't get why this is our reality growing up at this time compared to what it was all these years ago.